Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS slate breakdown for Tuesday, July 30th. I have no idea how it's already the end of July. Summer is flying by. Before we know it is going to be football, which brings me to our new best ball tool. You can be drafting right now with our best ball tool. Go over the playoff matchups, the schedule matchups, implied totals for the entire season, for playoffs, whatever you want to do. There's also ways to adjust your own rankings so you can make your own ranking set with how you want it to be done. I love our tool. Come check it out. You can come join us for only $39.99 per month, and you get access to everything we do. All the props, all the DFS, all the best ball. You get it all. One low price. Now we're going to get into our good old slate today. As always, we are going to start off on the perfect lineups and winning lineups from yesterday, and then we will get into today's slate, starting with the pitchers to consider, the high-owned, and some pivot options. And then lastly, we will get into the stacks to consider and go over a brief overview of everybody pretty much. Now, our perfect lineup for yesterday on FanDuel: Nick Pivetta, all one-offs with the perfect lineup. As always, 1K less for max salary, 332.1 was the perfect lineup. The winning lineup, meanwhile, 160.3, so quite a bit under. And we got Pivetta there. We have a two-man Mets, three-man KC stack, and then a few one-offs there to get it done. Congrats to Mershman 420, who won another 20K. So congrats to you, Mershman. And let's check out the DraftKings lineup. So DraftKings perfect lineup, we got Nick Pivetta and Grant Holmes. Grant Holmes, I don't know if you guys saw what this guy looks like, but this is the second coming of Kenny Powers, and he went 5 innings on 70 pitches with 8 Ks. Guy had a game, striking out everybody, throwing that ball fast as F, and got it done. Then as far as the perfect lineup, the hitters, two-man Mets, two-man KC stack with some one-offs. And the winning lineup went to Milo 420. Man, 420 is a popular number today, apparently, as both winners had 420. They had Grant Holmes. They had Pivetta, so they nailed that pitching combo. Then they had a four-man Boston stack and some one-offs after that. Sorry if you hear a little scratching. My dog is trying to get out of the room now. So let's jump into the lineups to consider, some today's slate stuff. So, got big game, 11 slate, a lot of different ways to go, multiple games with 9+ totals, and I think it's an interesting slate, a lot of different ways to go. So starting with the highest owned pitcher, we got Robbie Ray. I think he should be the highest owned. He's only 8,200, 22% owned. This guy came out and just had a game versus the Dodgers. Now he is getting Oakland, which obviously is a better matchup, but the splits for Oakland are super interesting. Over the last 150 games, 236 average, 179 ISO, 304 WOBA. So hitting the ball hard, but not getting on base that much. Average is low. But over the last 20 games, 314 average, 286 ISO, 400 WOBA. So they have been very, very good lately versus lefties. But over the long span, not very good. Over the long span, they look like the Seattle Mariners. Over the short term, they look like the Dodgers. So I don't know what you want to do with that. They are hot, but Robbie Ray has been very good. Well, the one game we saw, he was very good. His numbers don't look that great over the last 20 starts. 4.75 FIP, 27% K rate. Over the last 5, which I think you can just throw out the last 5 numbers just because it's one start where he got hurt in Cleveland. Didn't do too much. The other couple starts, I just throw that numbers out. StatCast data, last start, he allowed a ton of fly balls, 7 batted balls, only 1 barreled ball, very little hard contact, a lot of soft contact. So when guys did hit him, it was very soft contact. The ball was just short little pop-ups, or he was striking guys out. So he looked very good. Now, he went 86 pitches. I think we can step that up a little bit. I wouldn't expect it to be stepped up very much. Maybe 90, 95 pitches today, just due to the fact that he's really pitched 2 games now in 2 years. I think they're going to be very cautious with him. So all of this to say is, look, there is major upside at his price, but if he is super, super chalky, there's also some reasons to go away from him. I mean, the upside's there, but there's also some downside. So do with that what you will, and wish you luck with your choice there. Hunter Brown, 9K, 2.1x. And just by the way, with Snell, I am going to have some of him. Just not sure how hard I will go on him right now. My guess is I'm not going to go that hard if he is that high owned. All right, Hunter Brown, guy has been pitching absolutely amazing lately. We've talked about him in the past. He did this last year where he was really, really good for almost half a season and then fell off. This year, it was reversed. Wasn't very good in the first half, and then he's been really good over the last month and a half or so, 2 months. 3.32 FIP over his last 5 starts, 22% K rate, 24.6 over his last 20 starts, with a 4.09 FIP over that span. I think he is interesting. I don't mind going there. I like the spot versus Pittsburgh, who frankly haven't really been that great versus righties. 237 average, 239 over the last 150. Low WOBA, low ISO. Pittsburgh can get it done. I would expect O'Neal Cruz to get something going just because he's been hot. But there's really only a couple bats you got to worry about in that Pittsburgh offense. So I don't mind some Hunter Brown. I think 9K is getting a little pricey for him, but there's also not a ton of good pitchers on this slate. Tyler Glass now, 10K. I do think 10K is a little bit too cheap for him. And with the matchup versus the Padres, I think this is an interesting one. Look, Glass now has such good strikeout stuff. It doesn't matter if the team he's going against doesn't strike out much, which the Padres do not strike out that much. Glasnow's stuff is good enough to strike out the best guys in the major leagues. So I'm not that worried about the Padres not being able to strike guys out. I like the spot for Glasnow. I think Glasnow you always have to consider, especially if he isn't the highest owned guy on a slate, which he isn't today. So I am very much considering Glasnow. I think 10K for the upside that he shows is a little bit too low, and I'm absolutely intrigued. He went 91 pitches last time out, so he's pretty much a full go. The guy is the real deal and very, very good. So, yeah, I don't mind running out some Glasnow, but I hope the Padres get to him. Just my personal bias. Michael Wacha, 8,700 versus the White Sox. The Black Sox. Look, the White Sox are awful, and they traded Pham. Luis Robert could go today, although reports are saying it's not likely. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much you can always start a pitcher versus the White Sox. They have been that bad. So I don't mind going there. Wacha hasn't been quite as good lately. 4.69 FIP over a 2.57 ERA. So the results have been better than he has been pitching. But he just went 7 innings and 7 Ks, no earned runs against the White Sox 2 weeks ago. So can he do it again? Absolutely. It is in Chicago, though, rather than being in Kansas City. But all in all, I'm fine going there. 8,700 is a fine price. All right, Justin Steele, 8,800. Guy's been pitching really good lately. 2.31 FIP over his last 5, 3.23 over his last 20. This guy is one of the better pitchers in the MLB, and he keeps getting it done. At lower ownership, I am absolutely intrigued. This Cincinnati lineup over the last 20 games versus lefties, 219 average, 140 ISO, 27% K rate, low WOBA. All of that is super, super intriguing to me. I'm fully on board with some Justin Steele. Another thing, they are playing in Great American Small Park, and the wind is blowing out. Steele is allowing 44% fly ball, so that isn't great. He needs to keep the ball down, but he can absolutely do that. He is good at making ground balls happen. He is allowing 35.5% of them. The big thing here is that he's just allowing 13% hard contact. So guys are, hitting the ball, just very rarely hitting it well. So I like Justin Steele, and I think this matchup is, boom potential, but there's also downside risk because Cincinnati can get it done. Griffin Canyon, 6,700. I gotta say I'm very interested in this spot. Canyon hasn't been good this year, but Colorado has been terrible on the season. They have been better lately. Been talking about this a little bit, where they're 273 average, 218 ISO, 361 WOBA. They've been solid, so I don't mind Colorado stacks with that short-term success, but long-term wise, I don't mind picking on this spot. There is strikeout upside, and he's super cheap. So as a value option, I'm a little bit intrigued. Do I absolutely love it? No, but I'm a little interested. David Festa, he hasn't done a whole lot in the major leagues. He is a top prospect, though. My worry here is we have like 15 to 20 mile an hour winds blowing out in New York, and that leads to a little more home runs. He allowed 43% fly balls and 43% hard contact. So I think Met stacks are a little bit intriguing. Max Scherzer. Scherzer came out and just crushed the White Sox. It is the White Sox. But all in all, he's been pitching decent. He's not, the Max Scherzer of old, but still solid K rates. FIPs are fine. I like him at low ownership. Now, if his ownership gets up a little bit, I'm going to be off of him because the Cardinals have been hitting well lately. But all in all, I will probably have a little bit of Scherzer. Sean Manaea is at 7,900 is a bit expensive to me versus a good offense in the Twins when he's allowing a ton of fly balls. So in the situation where it's pretty windy, fairly warm, not really loving Manaea. Luis Castillo, 9,200 versus the Red Sox. Look, Red Sox are good versus righties. We saw it last night. They got to Logan Gilbert. Can they get to Castillo? Yes. He's also averaging 20% less fantasy points away. Hitting weather is nice in Boston. I like all of that. The game total is 10.5. All of this sets up for a very, very loaned Luis Castillo. But we know there's big time ceiling there. And I'm willing to take some shots with Castillo tonight. Do I absolutely love it? No. But at low owned with the ceiling that he has in a pitching slate that really doesn't have, a ton of guys standing out, I think he's pretty interesting. Not really loving anybody down here. Hate to go with Waldron versus the Dodgers. However, at 8K, he is a little interesting. We have seen him have success and be put up 20 plus. The Dodgers have retooled a little bit. That offense, if their new trade partners are in the lineup today, are better than what they were. This Dodgers offense just hasn't been fully clicking like it was. So slightly intrigued with Waldron, but going to be going to be tough to really get there. No more than an SP2 in my book. Lance Lynn, a little interest there, but not a ton. Red Sox Rangers are just starting to hit a little bit better. However, they still have been bad versus righties, and we know Lynn does have a little bit of a ceiling. All right, let's get over to FanDuel. Check it out here. The highest owned on FanDuel is Hunter Brown, 24% owned. It makes total sense to me. 9,800 is getting a little pricey with not a giant upside on him, but I'm intrigued. Glasnow's next at 9.6, 21% owned, and followed by Robbie Ray. Now, I don't mind some Oakland stacks, as we talked about. They have the splits that are interesting. The fact that they've been very good in short term and bad in the long term makes me want to play both sides of that. Glasnow, I'm definitely going to have some of him, as I will Hunter Brown. Justin Steele at low ownership on FanDuel is very, very interesting, as is Michael Wacha and Luis Castillo. I think getting different on FanDuel is way easier than getting different on DraftKings today with pitching, due to the fact that you have to do 2 pitchers on DraftKings and 1 on FanDuel. There's really only 5-6 guys I'm interested in today, pitching-wise. So now let's get over to some stacks and see what we got here. All right, so our highest ceiling, we got Oakland. Just talked about this, how they are interesting. There's going to be leverage. They're not going to be high owned. A lot of people are going to be on Robbie Ray. He looked absolutely fantastic versus a very good offense last time out. So Oakland, you could do worse than them. Boston's popping up versus Castillo. There was huge leverage in Boston yesterday, and they went nuts. Very similar setup here for Castillo. He has been very good in the short term, though, and I am fine going either way on that spot. Cincinnati also popping up against Justin Steele, which I don't love it, but hey, there's going to be home run potential there, so it makes some sense. Highest owned stacks. All right, highest owned stacks. We got Arizona versus Patrick Corbin. No surprise versus Gas Can Corbin. Do we see Cy Corbin today? Probably not. Arizona obviously is good versus him, and I think it's hard to really bet against against Arizona in this spot. So definitely intrigued. And 60% owned is not enough for me to get away from them just due to ownership. Dodgers are popping up a little bit against Waldron. That makes some sense to me. The one thing I have to say with that is Waldron can be good, but knuckleball is inconsistent. So it makes some sense having them get some ownership. Our highest projected, we got Mets versus Festa. Look, Mets offense has been very hot. We have home run wins tonight. Festa is a 6.3 ERA or FIP over his last 3 starts, which, is MLB career so far. Boston's popping up versus Castillo. Makes some sense. Royals versus Jonathan Cannon. He has a 4.5 FIP over his last 5 starts, and the bullpen behind him is terrible and got worse because they traded some guys. So it makes some sense to want to go to Royals here at a little lower ownership. And let's check out the value stacks here. You got to expect Oakland is going to be here as they're in an interesting spot. Giants versus JP Sears. JP Sears hasn't been great. Tyler Fitzgerald has been unreal. The one thing I got to say here is Jorge Soler is gone. So there's a little less pop in that Giants offense, and another spot that there could potentially be some substitutions just because Soler is one of the only guys that stayed in the lineup always. Seattle versus James Paxton. Glad this one popped up. Seattle's been hitting the ball decently lately. They've been putting up some runs, and you have great hitting weather in Boston. Paxton, mid-5s FIP. Definitely interested to go there. Cubs versus Cincinnati. Montas was supposed to throw today, but he got traded, so we're still waiting on who will be the pitcher today. But, hey, great hitting weather in Cincinnati, so intrigued to go there. Angels versus Quintrell. Quintrell had a string of starts where he looked really good, and now he has a FIP of 6 over his last 5, so you can definitely do worse than going there as well. Let's check out the teams to get a full overview and look at the highest implied run total. Seattle and Boston, both at 5.5 implied runs. You can go there. I do like Seattle over Boston in this spot. Also should be a little less owned. KC versus Jonathan Cannon, I think, is interesting. Bullpen, like I said, is terrible behind him. They got a run total of 5. Arizona 4.9, Cubs 4.8, Houston 4.8, Angels 4.8, Milwaukee 4.8. All are firmly in consideration. And the Mets are at 4.6, and I really, really like their stack potential. A little lower owned, very interesting to me. Anything down below here, you can do it. There are some, just comes with higher risk, but there are some nice leverage options, like Oakland versus Robbie Ray. Very intrigued with that. I don't love the Padres in this spot versus Glasnow. Just Glasnow rarely gets tagged for, 5-6 runs. Can it happen? Absolutely. The Padres have been hot, so I don't want to tell you not to do it, but it is going to be a little bit more difficult today. Minnesota versus Sean Manaea, I think, is interesting. He allows a lot of fly balls, a lot of barreled balls, and the wind is blowing out. So a lower owned option there that I find interesting. All right, guys, that'll do it for us today. All in all, good luck. Let's make some money, and I will see you guys back tomorrow. Peace.